And what I will go for is to make a bigger one. All right. So lads, I'll take down one of the questions. All right. So if you have something like this, if you have root x equals 5, just square both sides. And when you square both sides, what happens to a square root? Just disappears, leaves what's inside it. And then 5 squared, 25, all right? So that's quite handy, all right? Now, what happens in a question like this? For example, question 6, okay? Looking at question 6. We have a square root of this question 6 right here. So this question 6. Root 4x minus 3 equals 2x minus 1. Once again, I'm simply going to square both sides. So when I square 4x minus 3, what happens? 4x minus 3. Now when I square the other one, it's 2x minus 1 multiplied by another. Because when you square it, you multiply it by itself. And when that multiplies out, I'm going to get a 4x squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 1. You okay with that? Yeah, exactly. Now, when I move everything to one side, which I'm going to do in a second, it's going to be 0 here. It's going to be 4x squared here. That 4x here, and I'll just cancel, I'm afraid. It becomes a minus 4x. So it's going to be a minus 8x. And then that minus 3 becomes a plus 3. Yeah. Now, what I'm noticing here is that all of these are divisible by 4, aren't they? So I'm going to make my life easy. I'm just going, is it all right to put the equal 0 on either side? Yeah, it is. Perfectly all right. Divided by 4. And that's what you get there. You can minus b it, you could factorize it. As a H2 class, you should be able to factorize fairly easy. Okay. Is that all right with you guys? And then x equals, just x equals 1, isn't it? All right. Now, gents, how they sort of try and get you on these type of questions is I did question 6, all right? Now, 13 is the hardest one. We won't do that just yet, okay? Now, lads, see question 10 as an example. Yeah. All right. Now, if you look at this one here, you can do this. Now, you have a choice. One way is extreme. One way takes a lot of effort. The other way doesn't take half as much effort. It's very important to save your work because you don't want to do this, and I don't want to correct this, right? So it's in both our interests for this not to happen. If you square both sides, here's what happens. Question 10. Okay. Now, lads, if you square both sides, here's what happens. You'd have to multiply this out. Okay, and it's not a fun looking item to multiply out. So here's what I suggest. Now that'd be 5 squared, which is 25. Now that's if I square both sides. We're not going to do that because that looks pretty nasty, doesn't it? So here would be my suggestion. Before you do anything, move the x to the other side. Yeah, I think I'm about to do what you're about to tell me to do. Right now, lads, instead of doing this, which looks absolutely awful, here's what I suggest we do instead. I bring the x to your side. Okay. No. 5 minus x. Multiply both sides by minus. What happens then? I'm just changing this minus on the outside. See that? That's what I'm changing. Now, lads, you're at the stage where you can take this question over now. Okay, gents. Square both sides, you get 5x minus 1. Time for people to be quiet now, please. Okay, I'm going to multiply this out twice. When I multiply that out, I'm going to get 25 minus 5x minus another 5x plus x squared. And that's a 5x minus 1. Now, when I bring it all to one side, it's going to be 0 equals, it's going to be x squared minus 15x exactly. plus 26. Yeah, that's actually all right because it's just 2 and 13. Okay, you solve it. Two minuses, but it will be two pluses in a second. So that's what happens when you factorize it. Two numbers that multiply to give you 26, but add to give you minus 15. And then x equals 13 and x equals 2. You all right with that, guys? Done. It's question 13, all right? And there's something I want to explain about 13 before we begin. In a way, there's no good way to do 13. Okay? So, here's 13 here. Okay. Now, the question is, can I not just square the lot of them now? I'll explain something here, right? Would you agree that 4 plus 3 equals 7? Would you be happy with that? If I square them individually, like so, okay, that'll be 16 plus 9 equals 49. Squaring them individually doesn't maintain balance. However, if I square the full thing, if I go back here, and this is very important that you understand and know this. If I come back here, I'd have to square it like this for it to maintain balance. Okay, so that's very important you know the difference. Now, with this question here, here's my first option. My first option is 5x plus 1 plus root x plus 1 multiplied by another root 5x plus 1 plus root x plus 1, leave it with me for seconds, equals 36 squared, which is 36. Lads, now, something I just want you to run out, something I just want to run over, which is here, right? So, sorts back in the day, root 4 multiplied by root 3 is actually root 12. There's a multiplication effect of sorts. So, for argument's sake, if you were asked root 5x plus 1 multiplied by another root 5x plus 1, because, now this one's interesting. Okay, so I'll give you another example. See the way they're both exactly the same. So, see the way the two of them are different? Okay, but the two of these are exactly the same. And no, just 5x plus 1 would be your answer. Because if you've root 7 multiplied by root 7, what's the answer? Just 7. Yeah, when you multiply them out, it cancels the root. Okay. So would you all agree that that's 5x plus 1? Because what's root 7 by root 7? 7. 7. Okay. Now, lads, here's where it gets difficult, okay? We all know that root x plus 1 by root x plus 1. That's also another easy one. What's root x plus 1 by root x plus 1? Yeah, that part is also easy. Now, here's where it gets sort of difficult, okay? What's root 5x plus 1 multiplied by root x plus 1? Would everybody agree? That's a lot more similar to root 4 by root 3. Why is it similar to root 4 by root 3? They're different, aren't they? So, what you'd have to do here is, do you notice that the square root sign remains for root 4 by root 3? So, this should be similar. The square root sign remains. And also, we're going to do now, if you have the attention span to hold this, what we're going to do next is we're going to multiply this. No. 4 lines. All right, guys, and that'll be there. Now, what I want you guys to do right now? Okay, so as discussed earlier, green by green, 5x plus 1 by 5x plus 1. Oh, sorry, root 5x plus 1 by root 5x plus 1 is just 5x plus 1. All right, next one. Blue one here. That's your. Okay, have you got that far, lads? Okay, next one. Same thing again. Okay, and the last one is just x plus 1, isn't it? Yeah. Now, and that equals your 36. Now, here's what's going to happen to us here, all right? I'm going to get 6x plus 2. Now, if any don't know this already, a root 7 plus another root 7 is 2 root 7s, written like that. So the blue one plus the other blue one, simply 2 of them. Okay? And as I said, lads, if this was to come up on leaving, it'd be considered an insanely difficult question of this variety. Yeah. Okay? Now, lads, here's what we're going to do now. Right? What I think we should do is, not yet. I'm going to get 5x squared plus 6x plus 1. And then on the other side, I'm going to have 36 take away 2, which is 34. Now, I'm at this stage here. Is that okay with you guys? I can divide both sides by 2, can't I? What's the reason for that? There's 2 of them, isn't there? So if I divide both sides by 2. Everybody happy with 17 minus 3x? Now, one more time. Go square both sides. Okay? So when I square this, what happens? Just gone, all right? Now, when I square the other one, it's 17 minus 3x multiplied by, yeah. So I think that's got 17 times 17, 289. Minus 51x, minus 51x, 9x squared. Right, guys? I'm beginning here, okay? So lads, I'm interacting the 9x squared. This 5x squared, when it goes over the other side, is going to take away from the 9x squared. So that's 4x squared. The next thing we're looking at is this is minus, sorry, the next thing we're looking at is that this here is minus 102x. Everybody cool with that? But then when we bring the 6x over the other sides, it's going to be minus 108x. And then the 6x goes over and turns into a minus. Excellent. Lastly, this 289, this 1 comes out the other side and takes away from it. That's going to be plus 2AA. Now, lads, the equal 0 can either be on the left or it can be on the right. Now, if we divide both sides by 4, which we're allowed to do, you can do the minus b formula there if you want, but I'd be inclined to, what's that, 72? Factors of 72 are 3 and 24. What's 3 plus 24? 7. So I'm going to get x minus 3 and equal to 0, yeah? And then two answers are x equals 3 and x equals 24. Right, guys, now, that took a lot of effort, right? Sustained pressure. Now, here's what we're going to do now. We're going to go back up to the same question at the very beginning. Okay? We're going to go right up here. Okay? And instead of squaring that out, here's what we might decide to do instead. Okay? What we could try instead and see if it's any easier is to bring this one over the other side. So what we're going to say is keep root 5x plus 1 where it is and turn it into 6 minus x plus 1. What you guys are going to do now is you're going to square both sides and you're going to try and take it to the finish line on your own and see how it goes for you. You should get the exact same answers as you did in the last question because it's the same question, isn't it? The answer should be 3 and 24. You're going to have the tricky part is going to be multiplying this out. And when you multiply that out, it's simply minus 6. You're going to have to do that, aren't you? All right. And the only other one that's really awkward, lads, if you had minus root 5 multiplied by minus root 5, could anybody tell me the answer for that? 2 minuses make a plus. And what's root 5 by root 5? Technically root 25, which is 5. Likewise, what do you think minus root x plus 1 multiplied by minus root x plus 1 is going to be? Just x plus 1. Using the same logic, it's going to be x plus 1. So you're going to have to square that out now yourself. All right. Okay, so working on the red line here. I'll just go out to Thailand. Oh, never mind. Shh. Alright, guys. Alright, guys. 5x plus 1. To multiply this out, we get here is 36 minus 6 times x plus 1 minus another 6 times root x plus 1. And as we agreed earlier, root x minus 1 multiplied by another root x, minus root x plus 1 multiplied by another minus root x plus 1 is simply x plus 1, right? Now, even now, this is quite difficult. There's now what we're going to do here, guys, is I'm going to bring over anything that's not this stuff here. You see the two of them? I'm going to combine them to get minus 12. There's minus 6 of them, and there's another minus 6 of them, which will create minus 12 of them. Does that make sense? And then you have your 36 and your 1. When we bring it over, it becomes a minus 37, doesn't it? And then we had a 1x. When it goes over to your side, is a minus 1x. 4x minus 36. Okay. Now, here's what I'm thinking. Now, this is incredibly awkward, right? So here's what we're going to do with this, all right? If I had, for argument's sake, 6 equals 12y. Is everybody looking at the green now? Minus 12y. If I square both sides, what happens? 36 equals, what's minus 12 multiplied by minus 12? 144y squared. Likewise, if I had 6 equals minus 12 square root of y, what happened if I square both sides? 36 equals 144. What's root y by root y? Y. Okay. Now, we can do something like that. Somebody said, can we divide them by 4 first? Absolutely. But still more or less going, I'll divide by 4 later if that's okay, just because I showed you. You wouldn't be wrong though. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm going to square both sides. Okay. Actually, to be fair, he is correct. If we divide by 4, it's smaller numbers, isn't it? So let's actually do that. Divide by 4. Is everybody happy that that's me dividing that by 4? Okay. Now I'm going to square both sides. What happens when you square both sides, lads? So it's going to be x minus 9 squared. Lads, I'm going to speed this up now, unfortunately, right? So it's going to be x squared minus 18x plus 81 on the left side. On the right side, what's minus 3 by minus 3? Remember, you're doing minus 3 root x plus 1 by... Yeah, and you're multiplying the two minus 3's by each other to get 9. And you're multiplying the root x plus 1 by the root x plus 1 to get. Okay, and then that's 9x plus 9. Bring everything to the left. We're going to get x squared minus, what is it? X, yeah. And then 9 from 81, 72. And what you'll notice is that's actually the exact same equation we got earlier. And it's still x minus 24 and x minus 3. So if I'm being honest, either method was awful. Like both methods were really, really difficult. Okay, so that was question 13. We